Alright guys, I'm going to go nick off and do a show, and we'll be back. Thanks. I'm talking about the riots, so, you know. Bye. Be back in a bit first, because we got to do some fucking recordings, and if you don't do it, I'm going to tie you to the fucking chair and make you do it.
future's far away, but I'll stay, I'll stay. Just take a leap of faith, we'll find a way for you and me. Can't look back and run from what I feel inside. There's no more time to hide, because I feel again, I feel again. Oh, now I feel again. We're bringing this back to life. I feel it again, I feel it again, I feel again. We're bringing this back to life. Help me find the right words to say to get us back on our way. Can we try to fight against the grain of throwing out what we made? The future's far away, but I'll stay, I'll stay. Because I feel again, I feel again. Oh, now I feel again. We're bringing this back to life. We're picking up where we left off and on again. We never quite could forget, 'cause what we got so intense. I feel it again, I feel it again, I feel it again. We're bringing this back to life.
Alright. Oh my god, it feels weird doing a live stream again. It's been a while. It's been a little while, guys. How are we all? Alright, so today's show, basically it's all going to be about the riots. Let's face it, it's trending, it's popular, everybody wants to know about it. We're going to talk about that. So obviously thanks to everybody who has turned up. Obviously it wasn't really announced anywhere except on Twitter. I don't know if I have I still have access to Gab. Gab's been down for me lately. Oh no, Gab's back up, so I can post a link there. But yeah, we're going to go through it. We're going to talk about the riots over that's happening in America at the moment. Obviously, it is a hot topic, and you know, as a YouTuber, per sorts, you know, I suppose, yeah. But yeah, we're going to go through it. We're going to talk about that because there's a lot that's happening, and yeah, we're going to talk about that. Oh, sorry. So, obviously, guys, if you're here, smack that like button, and we'll get started in very shortly. I'm just going to send out this tweet. How are we all? We all good? Everybody good? Everybody happy? Yeah. So, that's the one I want to send out. Publish. Right, done. Alright, so let's jump into it. I also do realise I need another webcam for this computer because I've literally got 2 computers running now for dual systems. I didn't have a cam, but anyway. Let's jump into it. And hopefully my little raccoon will become responsive. Alright, now we have a whole stack to cover, guys. We have so many topics to cover. Alright, so let's start with some bad news, I suppose. I suppose it's bad news, but it ended up being good news in the end. So let's just go through and load all this up. So there have been a lot of celebrities that have come out and spoke out against this writing. Well, not a lot, but some of them anyway. Do have a little bit more respect for celebrities that do that, because I think it's a real bad idea to do this writing right now. People are just going absolutely nuts over it. So there's also a lot of misinformation too. You guys have probably noticed that. On both sides. I spotted a tweet earlier today from a guy claiming the ATM was being ripped out and being dragged onto a bus, and I literally had to correct the guy and say, no, look, this is an older video, blah blah blah. Damn integrity gets in the way sometimes. Alright, so there is so much to cover, which is why we're doing a live show. Let me guys know in the chat if you like these live shows. Do you want me to do them once a week? Maybe on the Sunday mornings, for example? I can do that. Alright. Now, I'm doing like every time this morning sort of thing on the weekends, once a week. Alright. As you see, I've been collecting data for a while. Get rid of my Anzac biscuit box. Lil Wayne is one of the ones that has come out, spoke out against this. I'm kind of impressed with that, to be honest. Didn't expect that. But, you know. It's funny how no one's listening to him, but he's supposedly, you know, black, and, you know, supposed to listen to the black flag, except for, you know, obviously the ones that speak out against it. Then obviously we ignore those ones, right? Media. This is just the news from yesterday. There is more today. So. Oh, I accidentally closed that one, but anyway, we lost one. Alright. Let's jump into it and let's kick this off, guys. So, probably won't deal with the monkeys first off. That's just too funny. Alright. Okie dokie. Alright, here we go. Alright, so black firefighter spent his life savings to open a bar, then Minneapolis, I can't pronounce things. Looters burnt it down. So, a black firefighter who invested his life savings into opening a sports bar Menelaus, whatever it is, was reduced to tears after looters destroyed his life work. Corby Bella originally planned to open his bar in March, but those plans had to be put on hold due to beer bug. Bella had been gearing up to financially open his bar after Minnesota gave the go-ahead for restaurants and begin reopening on June 1st. So he was literally 3 days away from opening. That's sad. That is really, really sad. But Friday morning, Bella's bar was a little more than a pile of bricks after protesters of the death of George Floyd, an unnamed black man who died in Minnesota's police custody on Monday, led to widespread rioting and looting in the city. I don't know what we're going to do, Corbin Bella told CBS News on this Thursday morning while holding back tears. It hurts, man. It's not fair. It's not right. We've been working so hard for this place. It's not just for me. It's for my family. Now, they do have a video of it here, and we're probably going to rewind this, but while CBS reporters were interviewing Bella on Thursday morning, looters broke back into his bar to try to break into his safe. I don't know how this is going to help you with, obviously, the death of George, but hey, money, I suppose. Now, obviously, as we were standing in front of the restaurant, people were in black trying to steal the safe. Bella's wife, Tarana Bell, wrote on Facebook post on Thursday, "This just happened an hour ago in broad daylight." Tarana Bell added to the post that she and her husband do not have insurance for their business. "I'm hearing people say, F the business, they'll have insurance. Well, we don't, and this is all out of our pocket." Tarana Bell wrote, "Let someone come in and ruin your home and loot for the cause, and then see if you're okay with it." Now, there has been a bit of an update on this, and it's actually quite a good update as well, to be honest. So his name was actually Corby Bella, and someone started a GoFundMe. And that's it there. But we'll get to that in a sec. So sports bar owner, firefighter cries after looting destroyed the business he put his life savings into. Now we do actually have the video, so we'll just play it for you guys. It is kind of moving, so let's obviously jump in and see how we go.
What we're gonna do?
Early Thursday, we met Corboy Bala, who invested his life savings into opening this sports bar.
Right, trying to steal the safe!
While our cameras were rolling, looters came back to try to steal his safe.
It hurts, man. It's not fair. It's not right. We've been working so hard for this place. This is not just for me, it's for my family.
His cousin, Janelle, called on looters to focus their attention on justice without harming the community.
You try to come in and we show you we're black, and then you're black trying to steal. It makes no sense. It's so disrespectful. I'm so embarrassed of my city.
He also spoke to Lexi Erdahl, who drove an hour to stand with
All right. Interesting thing. Most of this looting that's going on right now, most of this rioting that's going on right now, it's not done by the black community. Some of it is, sure. But the vast majority of it is actually Antifa. And we'll get to that in a sec, because there has been a bit of a huge update. Now, there was a GoFundMe that started up for the firefighter turned sports bar. That's not the one I wanted. That's an article on it. Hang on a sec. So, where's the GoFundMe link? And by the way, this guy has been supported pretty much bipartisan. Here it is, here. It's the Conservatives and the left who have been supporting him. So this is that, I suppose. At the moment, it's now raised $859,000. So, guys, obviously I'll put a link in the chat, and I'll also put a link in the video notes. The echo. Oh, I got you, man. Thank you very much. Okay, sorry, other microphone was on from the other computer. Thank you very much. Thanks, Jeff. Right, so there's the link for the GoFundMe there, guys. Obviously, if you're interested, feel free to. But I think he's pretty much got this covered. But yeah, let me know if that fixes it there, Jeff. Obviously, it's not everybody that's come out that's obviously gone through and has been okay with this. You have Lil Wayne on George Floyd. Stop blaming every cop, making it about race. So rapper megastar Lil Wayne urged people not to jump to conclusions regarding the police involved in the death of George Floyd. The Grammy winner condemned those smearing every police officer and called out those making Floyd's death about race. So I think when we see these situations, I think we'll also have to understand that we have to get very specific, Lil Wayne said in an Instagram live conversation with Rap Fat Joe. We have to get specific, and I meant by that is we have to stop viewing it from such a broad view, meaning we have to stop placing the blame on the whole force and everybody that is a certain race or everybody with a badge. We have to actually get into that who is the problem or who this person is, Wayne continued, and if we want to place the blame on anybody, it should be on ourselves for not doing more than what we think we're doing. Thank you very much, Jeff. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, man. I've been redoing recordings with this other computer, and I left the microphone on. All right. Also, Lil Wayne, stop blaming the entire police force about the entire race. We are a bunch of facts that we think we know and we don't. Reacting to the death of George Floyd, rapper Lil Wayne said Friday that folks need to be very specific when reacting to perceived injustices, warning not to get blamed the entire force or an entire race. Lil Wayne's real name, who cares, is noted that he's unimpressed by the hashtag and the t-shirt activism that if you don't actually help the person you're claiming to get justice for. The rapper also implored activists to know what they are protesting about before advocating a cause. It's just a bunch of facts that we think we know that we don't, he said. Now, we also think the situation, we think we also have to understand, we have to very specific, Wayne told rapper Fat Joe via Instagram Live. Then obviously we have rioters descend on cities across America to exact vengeance over Floyd's death. I think that's a little... yeah. Anyway, rioters took to the streets in 17 states to exact violence, revenge on businesses, government buildings, and even members of the media, as frustration over the death of George Floyd in Minnesota boiled over late Friday night. Hours earlier, Officer Derek Chauvin, the man seen with his knee on Floyd's neck in a bystander's video, was arrested and charged with the murder. Now, the question I have to ask is this, right? Everybody's screaming, no peace, no justice, right? Okay, but he's got justice. So why are you still rioting? That police officer has been charged. He has been charged with third-degree manslaughter and grievous bodily harm, I think. As begged for, was arrested Friday with charge of murder, blah, blah, blah. I think it was third degree murder. So he's been charged with murder. It's I think it's actually third degree murder, actually, to be honest. So yeah, but at the end of the day, and the best thing about people say, oh, why third degree? There is a lot less that needs to be proved when it comes to third degree murder compared to first or second degree murder. So because there's a lot less to be proved. It's a lot easier to charge him. It's a lot easier for him to go away for a longer time. So it's actually a better idea. Barbara Lee calls for protesters to continue. Despicable Trump doesn't care about black lives, which is interesting because it was actually Trump that went through and actually pushed the Justice Department to actually go after this guy or go after the cops. Friday on MSNBC, during the coverage of the nationwide protest over George Floyd's death, Representative Barbara Lee, who's a Democrat from California, urged protesters to continue the street heat and hold President Trump accountable because me Orange Man is bad. Lee said that we have to work to legislative, but I have to tell you what we have to do these days, protest the heat and all the activism to have to continue because that's the only way members of Congress, elected officials, are going to respond. The response that you get from Trump and the administration is not going to be good. At the moment, they're sort of stood back a little bit and they're like, they'll let him go sort of thing. But the problem is that the way that they solve this problem, if this continues to go on for too long, they're going to start bringing in martial law. And they're going to start rounding up and arresting people that are protesters or rioters and looters, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, but it's a slippery slope. Then what's the next time something like this happens, And there has been some movement on this as well. Trump has actually gone through and claimed that, or put down Antifa as a terrorist organization now. So that's something that we've wanted for a while because of the way they carry on, but we'll cover that in a sec. But it's people like this Democrat here. They're the ones that have been stoking the flames. If you guys go back through all the news articles and everything that's been going on for the past few days, and you especially watch the mainstream media, it's all race baiting. It's all of it is. And I've been calling out some of it, but it's just so much race baiting that's going on right now. It's ridiculous. Atlanta mayor exonerates rioters. You are disgracing... Excorporates? I don't know that word. Rioters. You are disgracing the life of George Floyd. I'd probably actually have to agree with her on that one. Atlanta Mayor Crush Bottoms, who's a Democrat, excoriated, I don't know that word, those causing violence in Georgia's capital city as protests turn to riots, stating that rioters are disgracing their city and the life of George Floyd and every other person who has been killed in this country. Angry demonstrators flocked to city all around the country, from New York City to Louisville to Atlanta, to protest the death of George Floyd. However, many of the protesters have descended into violent clashes as protest looters and vandalize buildings in businesses, set fire, assault police officers, and attempted to storm buildings, including the CNN headquarters in Atlanta. Can we just call it for what it is? They're rioters, right? And look, there's a large group of these guys that have been bussed in from out of town. I think it was something like 80-something% of all these rioters that's happening right now are actually from out of town, the vast majority of them. So, yeah. Begins with an F and ends U. Chicago Mayor code for Trump. Leave little to the imagination. So, Democrat Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot lashed out at President Donald Trump, delivering an obscenity in code during remarks Friday. Lightfoot accused the president of encouraging violence in the wake of the protests in Minnesota, sparked by the death of George Floyd in the police custody Monday. I don't know how it's Trump's fault, but anyway. Floyd's death was captured on a viral video that showed the police officer Derek Chauvin holding him down, knee in the back, knee to the man's neck, as Floyd complained that he was unable to breathe. Chauvin has been since fired, arrested, and charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter. So that's what I was saying before. 3 days after the protest of that devolved into riots, vandalism, and looting, the president tweeted that continued unrest will result in a crackdown from the federal level. So 3 days after they've been rioting and smashing up the place, Trump finally tweets, right? But here she is claiming that it's Trump that's race baiting and causing a problem. But they were smashing up cities for 3 days before he said something. So unless they've got a time machine, I don't know how it's Trump's fault, right? Those thugs are dishonouring the memory of George Floyd. I won't let it happen. Just spoke to Governor Tim Walz and told him that the military is with him all the way. Only difficulty we'll have is assume control, but when looting starts, the shooting starts, Trump tweeted, prompting a response from Twitter that accused him of glorifying violence. Yeah, sure. Lightfoot appeared to agree with Twitter, saying that he wants to show failures of the part of the Democratic leaders to throw red meat to his base. His goal is polarization to destabilize local government and inflame racist urges. We can absolutely not let him prevail, and I will code what I really want to say to Donald Trump. It's 2 words. It begins with an F and it ends with U. Lightfoot went on to say that she tried not to let Trump bait her into responding all the time, but sometimes she just had to let one fly. Whatever. Trevor Noah defends looting. Police in America are looting black bodies. Oh my God, you're a moron. Comedy Central host Trevor Noah, and big surprise, he's Comedy Central, defended the looting taking place in Minnesota and other cities across America in reaction to the death of George Floyd, saying that black people are simply reacting to how they've been treated by society at large. What has society at large been treating you got to do with you stealing a frigging TV? There's videos, and we're going to get through all this sort of stuff, so we'll see it all in a bit. There's videos of guys walking out of shops with 3 or 4 TVs stacked on a shopping trolley. What the hell has society, the way they treated you, got to do with you stealing all these TVs? Like, seriously, man. Like, come on, knock it off. Watch. George Floyd warns youth against gang culture. One day it's going to be you and God. So George Floyd, the man whose death at the hands of Minnesota's police has set off a national protest, has been remembered as the reformer to his Texas hometown who encouraged black youth to turn from violence before he was killed. Maybe we should be driving around the protesters playing this, because this seems to be something that they need to listen to. Let's listen to this.
Just saw my homegirl Nikki from South Lawn lost her son, man. Our young generation is clearly lost, man. Clearly lost, man. Like, I don't even know what to say no more, man. Like, you youngsters just going around, just busting guns in crowds, kids getting killed, you know, and it's clearly the generation after us, man, that's so lost, man. You know, man, I came into Houston and the nigga told me, yeah, Floyd, that young nigga the truth, man, right there, because he could bust a gun. Man, I knew it was crazy then, a nigga my age saying this here, man. You know what I'm saying? It condoning this shit, bro. You know what I'm saying? And like half them young niggas shooting them guns go home and they knees shaking at night. But they don't show it to nobody because, you know, they ain't tough then. Hey, man, come on home, man. One day it's going to be you and God. You going up or you going down. You know what I'm saying?
So that's the guy that was killed by the police officers saying that, right? Now, their response was to go through and to do the exact opposite to what he's talking about there. That's how they're remembering him. They're remembering him by going through and rioting and smashing up places and everything like that, right? The direct opposite to what he was just literally trying to encourage people to do. The irony in that is just amazing. It really, really is. As cops abandon them, black and white gun owners come together to protect small businesses. Part of Minneapolis, New York, Atlanta, Seattle, and other cities from coast to coast are burning. The anger in the US towards the establishment has spilled over into the streets, and while much of that anger was deserved towards the government, property, and law enforcement, another unfortunate reality has unfolded. Looting and rioting have leveled small businesses, and mum and pop shops have seen their life's work, which was already struggling from the lockdown, burned to the ground. However, there's some folks who have refused to lay down and let the looting crush their part of American dream. Armed to the teeth with semi-automatic assault rifles and handguns, multiple gun owners, both black and white, and sometimes both side by side, have reportedly become together to protect private businesses from looting. As cops focus on arresting and pepper spraying journalists, that's few and far between, but whatever, thieves and vandals were roaming free and emptying the shelves from mum and pop shops while laying waste to others. The only deterrent to these bad actors destroying and robbing businesses were good actors with big guns who were able to stop them. Many of the initial armed protesters who saw the divide based on race, black businesses owners were protecting black businesses and even putting up signs in their windows to say that black owned to deter possibly racially motivated attacks. What this illustrates is the immense power of the Second Amendment and how important it is that you come to self-defense. Now, it's funny because people always go through and they talk about how the Second Amendment is not important. You know, there was a thing where I think it was CNN was going through saying, you know, if you ever want to get guns banned, you give all black people guns, and all of a sudden all the conservatives will go through and blah, 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 blah. But look, at the end of the day, Ellen just realised that Antifa's been designated. But I was going to say, but yeah, at the end of the day, the fact is that both black and white have had guns for a while now. I'm sorry to inform you, CNN. At the end of the day, and conservatives still aren't trying to encourage people to ban guns. This is why the Second Amendment is an amazing thing, because if you have a whole bunch of looters coming into your store and you have a semi-automatic machine gun, they're going to think twice about it. And also later on, we're going to go through and we're going to get into some of the videos of people who have been attacked. And it's amazingly the ones that are not able to defend themselves with rifles that are the ones that are going sent to hospital and stuff like that. So, you know, take what you will from it. All right. So, Killer Mike rips CNN as rioters trash headquarters. CNN's trash. Yeah, I agree, Chris. Karma is a mother. Stop feeding fear and anger. Atlanta-based rapper and activist Killer Mike slams CNN for feeding fear and anger every day after the network's wide headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia was attacked by rioters in response to the death of George Floyd. While rioters vandalized CNN's Atlanta's office, Killer Mike warned that the network must stop stoking fear among Americans. I love CNN, I love Cartoon Network, but I'd like to say that CNN right now, karma is a mother, Killer Mike said. Stop feeding anger and every day. Stop making people feel so fearful. Give them hope. I'm glad they only took outside and defaced the building and not killed human beings like the policemen did. Rioters vandalized the outside of the building and also confronted police officers who were guarding CNN employees in the building. At one point, rioters threw fireworks inside the building at police officers. Yeah, I'd agree, Chris, but at the end of the day, I also don't think they deserve this as well. Like, as much as I hate CNN, and trust me, I do, I would not like to see this happen to them, but I'm not going to lie, a part of me is kind of laughing on the inside when they've gone through and race baited all this. and literally they're the ones that have been encouraging this sort of behavior, and they're the ones that are now on the opposite end of it. So, at the end of the day, I suppose, sucked into CNN. But that said, I don't want any of the staff members hurt or anything like that. I don't want any businesses trashed, no matter how much I might disagree with them. We do have the video, so we'll just play that for you now.
Ted did a great thing. I love CNN, I love Cartoon Network, but I'd like to say to CNN right now, karma's a mother. Stop feeding fear and anger every day. Stop making people feel so fearful. Give them hope. I'm glad they only took down a sign and defaced a building and they're not killing human beings like that policeman did.
So, what else have we got? Chicago Mayor Lightfoot. My message, John. Oh, I've already said that. George Football Hall of Fame looted and destroyed by leftist mobs in Atlanta. What a way to pay homage to their sport heroes. Rioters in Atlanta took their frustrations out on the College Football Hall of Fame, smashing out the windows, vandalizing the place, and looting priceless memorabilia because somehow it's racist symbol of white supremacy. Somehow. We do have a video of it.
Right now, taking you back live out to the scene. This is where we now find the crowd that has gathered on both sides of the street. We are going to go now to the ground to Ryan Kruger near the College Football Hall of Fame. Ryan, what are you seeing?
Yeah, it's pretty devastating what happened here. Let's go and take a look. Pretty much every window here at the College Football Hall of Fame has been shattered. You see, this appears to have been one of the shelves that was up. They threw that right through the window. There's glass everywhere. There's, it looks like they raided a candy machine. There's candy all over the place. There are trinkets, hats, memorabilia, literally all over. So, and then even the windows inside the front lobby have been damaged as well. So, the protesters managed to get their way in, shattered all this glass. Definitely destroyed, knocked down all of the memorabilia here as well. And there is just glass that is shattered pretty much all up and down this road. This is College Football Hall of Fame. It's kind of right at the corner, right near catty corner of Centennial Olympic Park. That big fire we've been showing all the day is right behind me. It is going to be right behind that SWAT vehicle that you see there. There are lots and lots of officers in their riot gear that are set up here. What's been kind of interesting is...
Now, the funny thing, well, not the funny thing, but the sad thing about this, right, is that this sports memorabilia, the chances are the vast majority of the sports memorabilia is for the black community. Let's face it, right? There is an overwhelming population of black athletes. And at the end of the day, them going through and smashing up all this stuff, chances are it's actually affecting the black culture. Well, how does this... Even if it wasn't, even if it was white, even if they were smashing white people's culture, even if, how does that bring back George? How does that help with the situation with George Floyd? It doesn't, right? So what's the point? This is not... These race riots, these riots that are happening right now, it's not about George Floyd. I'll tell you now, these riots that are happening, they are about one thing. Capitalism versus communism. This is all Antifa, the Communist Party. This is what they're doing. This is all what it's actually about. What they're doing now, it has nothing to do with George Floyd. That's just an excuse. What it is about, it's about smashing up small businesses, smashing up. Why do you think they're going through and they're smashing predominantly small businesses? Sure, Target may get targeted here or there, but it's small businesses that are getting done. Why? Because of the same reason why the Democrats shut down and are crippling small businesses right now. They don't want small businesses up anymore. What they want is they want the top 6 people in the world to own everything. Large businesses, they're not going to have a problem recovering from this. Target, Kmart, Woolworths, whatever it may be, they're going to be fine. It's the black firefighter who spent his life savings trying to open a bar. He's the one that's going to be crippled from this. It's the small businesses that are now going to be brought out by large corporations because of all this stuff going on. This memorabilia Hall of Fame, I bet you if you look into it, small business. The same people that are suppressing small businesses from going back to work are the same ones that seemingly smashing up the city. Sure, Target may get done here and there, right? Sure. But the vast majority of businesses are small businesses. Carlson slams government reaction to riots. Authorities clearly don't care about you. Police won't show up to save your life. Let's see what has to see what Carlson says.
Remarkable scenes of violence and destruction and chaos from across the country tonight. We're going to spend much of the hour keeping you abreast of what's happening. Before we dive into that, we want to focus on one single thing that happened last night. A police station in a major American city was occupied and looted and burned. Most of us assumed we would never live to see something like that happen here, but it did happen. So the question is, has anyone been arrested for doing that? Will anyone ever be arrested? No one in authority seems especially interested in apprehending the people who did it. All of it happened on camera, but the perpetrators just walked away. And it's possible, maybe likely, that most of them will never be punished for it. That's striking. It's a very different experience from the ones most Americans have living here. As Minneapolis burns and crowds grow in the streets of Atlanta and many other cities, the rest of us are continuing on as we always do, dutifully following the rules. There are many of those. Every year there seems to be countless new rules to follow. They multiply like insects. We do our best to keep up. We get our permits, apply for our licenses, put on our reading glasses, and check the latest regulations on the internet. We wear our little masks. We keep our dogs on leashes. We drive sober. We don't eat on the subway. We never litter. We make orderly lines and patiently wait our turn. In airports and government buildings, we remove our shoes and submit to body searches from strangers. We lose our dignity every time we do this, but they tell us we must, so we accept it without complaint. In public, we hide what we really think. We bury our natural instincts. We keep our deepest beliefs to ourselves. We know the boundaries. We understand we will be punished for telling the truth. This is the America the rest of us live in. For the privilege of citizenship in a country like this, we work as hard as we can. We never stop sharing what we earn with others. We send money we would rather give to our own children to politicians in faraway cities. With that money, they make new rules. We follow those rules to the letter. That's what we were told to do as children. That's the deal we've struck. At least we thought it was. Now we know that other people have somehow negotiated a far better deal than the one we have. They get to ignore the rules. They don't believe in order or fairness. They reject society itself. Reason and process and precedent mean nothing to them. They use violence to get what they want immediately. People like this don't bother to work. They don't volunteer or pay taxes to help other people. They live for themselves. They do exactly what they feel like doing. They say exactly what they feel like saying. They spray paint their opinions on buildings. On television, hour by hour, we watch these people, criminal mobs, destroy what the rest of us have built. They have no right to do that. They don't contribute to the common good. They never have. Yet suddenly they seem to have all the power. This is hardly the first time something like this has happened in America. Spasms of destructive violence are a recurring feature of our history, in fact, of every country's history. The ideologues will tell you that the problem is race relations or capitalism or police brutality or global warming, but only on the surface. The real cause is deeper than that, and it's far darker. What you're watching is the ancient battle between those who have a stake in society and would like to preserve it, and those who don't and seek to destroy it. Underneath it all, this violence doesn't have that much to do with the behavior of the Minneapolis Police Department. For evidence, watch this tape. It's from the 1992 riots in Los Angeles. It was shot almost 30 years ago. It could have been shot this afternoon.
It's not right! It's not right! It's not right what y'all doing! I came from the ghetto too! Same as all of you did! Why destroy my business? Why destroy my truck? Why steal my computer? I'm trying to make it! Could you understand that?
The first thing you notice about that video, in addition to how overwhelmingly sad it is that it's not a racial dispute. The elderly man could be the grandfather of the young rioters swarming around him. But that's misleading. They are nothing at all alike. The old man is fighting to defend civilization. He's armed only with a hammer, but he's trying. The young men are working to tear it down. And those are the battle lines. They always are. Which side in that war have our leaders taken? Well, watch carefully and it will become obvious. The rioters in Minneapolis and in other places act as if they're allowed to loot and burn. And in fact, they are allowed. No one stops them. The authorities don't arrest them. Instead, they pander to them, flatter them, desperately try to win their love. Why are masked lunatics setting fire to Wendy's? Because the rest of us are sinful. That's what our leaders tell us. The crimes of the mob are the punishment we deserve. That's their argument. And many seem to buy it. On a White House executive staff call just this morning, key domestic policy advisors Brooke Rollins and Jaron Smith argued that it might seem racist to say anything about the rioting in Minneapolis. Better just to let it happen. So that's what they're doing. We should have seen this coming. When you express an opinion our leaders don't like, they call it violence. When criminals commit actual acts of violence, they call it speech. So the game is rigged. Why are the rest of us still playing it? We have more power than we think we do. Our system only functions because dutiful, normal people, people with self-control and decency, and above all, a sense of responsibility toward others, created our system. They sustain the system. They pay the bills. None of the thugs looting Target or the well-paid nihilists on television who are egging them on have added a thing. Nothing. Yet all of the destroyers expect that this arrangement will last forever. And you can see why, because for them, it's been a very good deal. But what exactly are you getting in return for your contributions to this system? The authorities clearly don't care about you. The police won't show up to save your life, literally. During election years, sweaty politicians claim to be on your side. It's a lie. They're not. They'll waste your time with hollow posturing. They'll feed you pointless symbolic victories and expect you to celebrate like you've actually won something. But when the mob comes, they're gone. You're on your own. That's true. Those are the facts. We can't change them. All we can control is our own behavior. Should you keep playing along with all of that? Ponder that the next time they demand you get a permit to put a deck on your own house. And think about it even harder the next time you write a tax check.
So, I actually happen to agree with a lot he's saying there. That's why I left it just run. At the end of the day, I don't think this is a white versus black thing. I don't think this is a justice for George thing. These riots that are happening right now, I reckon the reason why they're happening is because at the end of the day, the Antifa, it is this far left element that seems to think that burning down buildings and you know, you see signs, you see graffiti that says down with capitalism and, you know, all this sort of stuff. That these riots, they're not about race. They're not about George Floyd. They're not about, you know, the police brutality or anything like that. They might have started off like that, but it's been hijacked. What it's all about now is destroying capitalism, destroying small businesses. Because at the end of the day, the people that want to destroy the businesses and to destroy these capitalist society, they're taking advantage of the situation and they're destroying it so that they can bring in their communist sort of propaganda. I was talking to someone, and I don't want to mention too many details, but he was telling me that the intelligence have been watching communist China affect these far left groups, because at the end of the day, communist China want to bring in some sort of communist system in the rest of the world. And at first I thought, oh yeah, maybe, okay, for whatever. But then you start seeing everybody go through and destroy their local cities, and you see all these Antifa. And then, like I said, 80% of people who have been bussed in, they've been bussed in because at the end of the day, they're from out of town. They've been dispatched to all these cities to burn these cities down to the ground. And like I said, why is it they're going after small businesses so much? Why aren't they all going after every Target, Kmart store? Why is it, and even if they do go after one here, there, whatever it may be, do you really think that's going to hurt Kmart at all? Do you think Target is going to sit there and say, oh shit, you know, we lost the store in Minneapolis, you know, or however it's pronounced. You know, like, oh my God, you know, we're gonna face bankruptcy now because of it. Not the protesters doing it, it's the paid... That's exactly right there, Discerning Light. That's exactly what it is. These protests, these rioters that are going on right now, the vast majority of them, it's Antifa. It's Black Bloc. You know, like, for example, right, he shows you this video.
What they have, is that it's not...
Now, I want you guys to compare this video to one from this latest riot, and you tell me if there's any difference.
What's in my computer? I'm trying to make it. Could you understand that?
Right, now there's that video there, and now you go through and you compare this video.
I don't know what we're going to do.
Early Thursday, we met Corboy Bala, who invested his life savings into opening this sports bar.
Right, trying to steal the safe.
While our cameras were rolling, looters came back to try to steal his safe.
It hurts, man. It's not fair. It's not right.
What?
You know,
What's
we've been
the
working
difference?
so hard for this place. No, this is not just for me. It's for my family.
His cousin, Janelle, called on looters to focus their attention on justice without harming the community.
What is the difference between these two videos here? You tell me. I don't see a difference. One of them was 30 years ago. One of them was a few days ago. The same stuff has been made. If this was all about white supremacy, if this was all about the police department killing this black guy, why are they looting black businesses? What, you're going to tell me they don't know that this guy's black? So why smash up his bar? Why steal the safe from him knowing that he is black? Nah, it's black. Chloroquine is a coupe. I don't know. I don't know what you mean by chloroquines is a coupe. Feel free to elaborate there in the comments if you like. But yeah, but at the end of the day, to me, I don't see a difference between these two videos. So you can't sit there and argue that what's going on now is all about George, because George didn't happen 30 years ago. It happened 2 days ago. So why is it we have a video that is virtually identical situation to what is happening now? Live update. George Floyd protesters continue. Oh boy, we have a lot to cover. Alright, so that's actually latest update. So we'll move that to the end and we'll worry about that then. Video. Fonville NC rioters accidentally light itself on fire. Let's have a bit of a laugh. It's all a grave excuse to call in the National Guard. Okay, so that's what we're going to get to in a bit. There, Discerning Light. That's what's going to happen. They're going to call in the National Guard, and they're going to start rounding up people and locking people up. And I think Trump knows what the plan is, and that's why he's sort of been a bit relaxed on bringing that in. He doesn't want that because that'll go bad for him. They'll be able to blame Orange Man bad for that. Even though it's literally Antifa that is doing this. And I think he's doing the right thing when he starts claiming that Antifa is going to be a domestic terrorist group. I love that idea. Because they're the problems. They're the ones right now that are setting themselves on fire. They're the ones right now that are burning down buildings, smashing buildings. They burnt down a Department of Housing for low affordable rental incomes. You literally burnt down a place that's supposed to help the black community by providing low rental income. And they burnt it down. Absolute morons. I'm in Los Angeles. I already see them here. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we're still covering yesterday's news. We haven't got to today's news yet. So rioters appear to have accidentally lit themselves on fire while trying to set a blaze to the market house in North Carolina on Saturday, according to a video shared on social media. Protester. Let's just watch the video because I think this idiot needs to be laughed at. What do you guys reckon?
Oh, get him down! Get him out! Get him out! Oh, get him down! Get him out! Get him out!
What an absolute moron! Absolute moron. But anyway. AG violence appears planned. Okay, that's something that's actually from today's news. So we'll put that at the back there because we'll get to today's stuff in a bit, guys. So all right. Sheriff, rioters smash police officer's neck in Jacksonville, Florida. A police officer was stabbed in the neck and several others attacked Saturday at a riot over the death of George Floyd in Jacksonville, Florida. They attacked several police officers. They vandalized several police cars, attempting to light them on fire, breaking windows. We have one officer who was stabbed, was slashed in the neck, and is currently at the hospital. The sheriff and Jacksonville Mayor Lenny Carrot said the demonstrations began peacefully, but later took a turn for the worst, according to News 4 Jax. About 1,200 people came to the event that was scheduled to start at 3 p.m, and Williams said the organizers showed really good cooperation. However, after the majority of the people went home at around 6:30 p.m, 200 people stayed to confront the police, and they were the ones the officers were attacked. Let me guess, they were dressed in black. At 8:45 p.m, there were still about 100 rioters downtown. Officers planned to have crews remain as the evening progressed. All this ended when the rioters go home, Williams explained, adding that this is a small group that stuck around to create chaos. Let me guess, dressed in black, bust in from out of state, and supporting a hammer and sickle and Antifa signs. AOC shares protesters safely guidelines, warns of white supremacy infiltration. Oh my God, can someone... God. I don't get why people voted for this woman. I really, really don't, but anyway. Representative Alexandria Cortez shared infographic on Saturday via Instagram with guidance for protesters, which she entitled Protesting Safely, including a warning of white supremacists who may be infiltrating these protests. Her recommendation came during an ongoing demonstration, protests and riots in several cities following the death of George Floyd. So what to wear? Nondescript, solid-coloured layer clothing covering identification tattoos, goggles and masks, emergency contacts written down. tie your hair up, heat-resistant gloves, what to bring, drink water for the tear gas, snacks, cash card, change card, wash clothes, earplugs, protest signs. Don't bring cell phone without first turning off face touch ID, going on airplane mode and disabling data. Jewelry, anything you don't want to be arrested with. Contact lenses. Is this advocating for violence? Does anybody else see that as possibly advocating for a disruptive society? I don't know. Warning, graphic. Dallas protesters beat man to near death outside a store. We do want to cover that, but actually we can cover that now, actually. Let's cover that now. A video of George Floyd protesters in Dallas appears to show a man being beaten nearly to death by a crowd. The victim reportedly tried to defend his shop with a large sword, a report states. We do actually have the video on that. So here it is here.
Shit. Oh my god. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Shit. Look at your stupid ass. You came out with a sword.
Now you will see from this video, most of the guys that attacked him, I would say are actually white. White guy, that's a black guy there. White guy, that looks like it's a black guy there, but I don't think he's actually attacking him. I think he's attacking someone else. That's a white guy there. That's a white chick there. It's probably mixed. Probably. There's a white guy. That's a white guy. That's a white guy. That's a white guy. That's black. That's white. Or Asian. I don't know. Yeah, it seems like it's pretty mixed. Oh shit. But look at him. Look at this guy. Now, apparently he was taken to hospital. There's a guy claiming to be him on Twitter. He was taken to hospital. Reportedly, he's okay, but he's worse for wear. Well, I don't know if okay would be a way to describe it. But I also heard reports that he's in critical condition too. So the guy on Twitter could just be claiming it's him when it's not. But, yeah, that's supposedly... I don't know. That guy looks pretty messed up. Like, yeah. Yeah, but anyway. Law enforcement fired tear gas, pepper spray, rubber bullets at White House protesters. Protesters stormed the White House again on Saturday as law enforcement officials used tear gas, pepper spray, and rubber bullets to deter them. Tear gas just fired at protesters outside the White House. Lots of people gasping for breath, unable to see. Tear gas being deployed. Reporters on the scene said the protesters continued to tear down the temporary barricades at the White House while throwing fireworks, bottles, and rocks. Despite Trump floating the nation of his MAG supporters gathering at the White House on Saturday night, there were no reports of visible presence of the Trump-affiliated supporters on the scene. Marine One flew over the crowds as the president returned to the White House after watching NASA SpaceX manned rocket launch in Florida on Saturday afternoon. So, Yeah, good one, idiots. At the end of the day, I don't have a problem with the police using the rubber bullets and spray pepper spray and stuff. Like, they were trying to tear down the barricades to get to the White House. They need to protect the White House, so I don't have a problem with that, really, to be honest. George Floyd protest in Washington, D.C. Protests plan to take the streets of Washington, D.C. on Friday to protest the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Yeah, this looks like it was mostly peaceful at the start, so I don't have a problem with... Like I said, I don't have a problem with people peacefully protesting. My problem comes in when you start going through and you start rioting, smashing up things, that sort of stuff. That's when I have a problem. Justin Trudeau on George Floyd's death. Racism is real in America. Which is funny because he now has protests up in Canada. So, you know, apparently racism is also in Canada too. But, you know, hey. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Friday afternoon injected himself into the escalation tensions over George Floyd's death, declaring that racism is real in the US. But you have people protesting in Canada too. So does that mean that racism is real in Canada as well? I'm not quite sure. New York City outlaws the use of alien illegal immigrant, now all allowed to be referred to as non-citizens. This is not really related to that protest. So I might actually just put a pin in that one. That was going to be something else we're going to talk about. So we'll put that a pin in that. Woman found dead in car in Minneapolis following night of kidnappings, ransoms. Cars being shot at by rioters. A woman was found dead inside a car following a second night of violent rioters in Minneapolis. According to police, the woman appeared to be in her 30s with trauma visible on her body, with which was the back seat. The car was in the area of the riots in the middle street of the 7th and Bryant Avenue. There were multiple reported kidnappings in the area during the same time period. Lobo January, a reporter from the Star Tribune, wrote on Twitter that amidst all this, police are being called to investigate a possible kidnapping from the parking lot across the street from the burning station. A screaming woman was said to have been forcibly put into a vehicle that sped away, according to the scanner traffic. Additional reports of topless white females in distress in car with 3 black males went out over the scanner. Wow. CVS on Snelling is on fire. Carjacking reports. Kidnapping just occurred. The shooting random cars on University. Do not leave your home. Extremely dangerous here, the Twitter user of Minneapolis wrote. Another social media posted a photo from their motion sensor doorbell showing a distraught woman that appears to seek help. They did not hear the doorbell and it's unknown if she is okay. Social media and users' Facebook was posted speculate that it may have been one of the kidnapped women. Anyone with information is asked to call Crime Stoppers. Wow. Holy dooly. This is getting nuts. Video. Leftist protest. Killed, dragged by UPS truck in downtown St. Louis after mob shuts down a highway and attacks his truck. On Thursday night, far-left protesters attempted to loot a moving UPS truck during their violent protests and riots. The entire hoist was captured on video, and we do have it for you. So apparently he was killed. I don't think the truck driver will face charges, to be honest. I think he was in the right. From past history, it's highly likely the groups behind today's riots are domestic terrorists, revolutionary communists. That's funny because we were just talking about this. US-based radical Islamist orgs and other related to the Democratic Party. Oof. The recent riots in the US, instigated through so many Democratic-led cities across the country, are hardly spontaneous. They appear coordinated, which is very, very true. They do, actually. It's highly likely these racist riots are related to the same individuals involved in similar activities over the past year or years. These people are likely related to the US-based Islamist organizations, domestic terrorists, and other related to the Democratic Party. George Soros, for example. There's clearly no reason for the mass riot taking place around the city after the death of an individual at the hands of the police department. Everyone who saw the police brutality was applauded and outraged at the sight of the policeman kneeling on the victim's neck for a period of long time. The man died, but nothing warrants the wholesale destruction of property of the further injured and deaths around the US since that event. It's clear there is more to this than meets the eye. We believe we have identified some of those that are behind the riots around the country. We are able to say this because similar activities occurred over the past year, and we identified the actors related to those events and believe the same actors are likely involved in this current riot as well. So, pro-Iran protests in early January 2020. In early January 2020, the Irani Quad Force commander was dead. The man responsible for hundreds of US soldiers' death in Iraq had reached the end of his time on Earth, but Kavak Apart writes, not everyone in America was happy to hear the news, such as an evil man was dead. Our hypothesis is the same group of individuals are likely involved in the riots going on today in the US. Decolonize this place. Account called for violence, uprising in the New York City. The message was, the streets are ours, the trains are ours, the walls are ours, the moment is ours. How will you and your crew build an F shit up for this? So that's interesting. So it looks like they've gone through and done some 4chan sort of analysis. So Amir Hassan, she's apparently an organizer and sister of Amir Hassan. The team was made up of the following individuals. Amir Hassan, the leader. Natasha Destola, the autistic director. Mark Scofford, the muscle and interference to host and the help of the organizations such as Black Lives Matter and other black militant groups. Tell you what, they've done some deep analysis on this. That's actually really, really interesting, actually. I'm going to have to copy that link. I might have to talk about that separately. Alright. I always thought it was going to be George Soros, but, you know, anyway. Go away then. Two sisters face charge for throwing a Molotov cocktail at cops during Brooklyn George Floyd protest. A pair of sisters from the sleepy upstate New York town are facing charges for hurling a Molotov cocktail at cops during a Brooklyn protest over the police custody of death of George Floyd. Samantha Shader, 27, will be prosecuted in Brooklyn federal court for lobbying a lit bottle of alcohol at police van parked near the Brooklyn Museum at around 11:30 p.m. Friday, authorities said. An improvised explosive struck the driver's side of the van at the 471st Precinct. Cops instead managed to escape the vehicle, caught fire, authorities said. So yeah, guys, going throwing bottles that are lit at cops, good way to get yourself locked up and thrown in jail. Mayor asked rioters to wear face masks and practice social distancing as city burns. Oh my God, you got to be kidding me, right? Minnesota's Mayor Jacob Fry and other city officials released a statement on Thursday condemning the violence in the city but urging rioters to wear masks and practice social distancing. Do you really think they're going to do that? Really? Hey guys, please, if you're going to burn down the city, please, at the very least, just practice social distancing for us, okay? Because we don't want the city, we don't want everybody to get beer bug. But, continue to burn down the place, It's literally what they're saying right now. So what's this? Protests. So Colorado, California, Georgia, Kentucky, Minnesota, Missouri, Ohio, Tennessee, Texas, Iowa, Washington, and Wisconsin all have acted as stated National Guards to maintain order. You were saying New York, I believe. Los Angeles. Was that in the list? So LA has been added to that list. Oh, here we are. Curfews have been put in place. Many cities, including Minneapolis, Chicago, Seattle, Portland, Denver, Atlanta, Los Angeles, Cleveland, Columbus, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Rochester, and Miami-Dade County. In Philadelphia, police cars and Starbucks were set on fire. Federal protective service officer killed, another injured in Oakland shooting amid George Floyd protests. One security officer with the Federal Protective Service was killed and another injured after shots rang out amid protests in Oakland, California over the death of George Floyd on Saturday, authorities say. San Francisco's officer of the FBI said in a statement that the individuals inside the vehicle began firing gunshots at contacted security officers for the Federal Protective Service of the Department of Homeland Security. The FBI, Oakland Police, and the Federal Department of Homeland Security are investigating the shooting, which happened at 9:45 p.m. at the Ronald V. Velmus Federal Building, said DHS Acting Security Chad Wolf during a press conference on Saturday. This is not going to go well. This is really not going to go well. I hope they find him, really. Like, guys, killing people this is getting absolutely crazy. We just covered before that apparently women are being kidnapped and raped. Ransom has been, what the hell is, just to reiterate this, a woman was found dead inside a car following the second night of violent rioters in Minnesota. There are multiple reports of kidnappings in the area. What the hell are people doing? George Floyd's family hired their own pathologist after official autopsy finds he died of police restraint combined with heart disease and potential intoxicants in his system, and not asphyxiation or strangulation by officers. Don't know how I feel about this, to be honest, but we'll talk about it. Family of George Floyd has hired their own pathologist for a separate autopsy after the officials' results claimed he did not die of strangulation or asphyxiation. The preliminary results of the country's autopsy instead concluded that Floyd, 46, died from a combination of heart disease and potential intoxicants in his system that were exacerbated by the restraints placed on him by the police officers. They claim the underlying health conditions cited in the official report an illusion. The family does not trust anything coming from the Minnesota Police Department. How can they? Attorney Bern Chump said. We already saw the truth. Yeah, but my question is this. What if their people find that it was that? Look, I'm no fan of governments going through and doing a autopsy on people, like Jeffrey Epstein, for example. That was ruled as a suicide, and I disagree with that. So I'm not going to say it doesn't happen. But at the end of the day, I would say get someone that's independent. Get someone like from Australia or the UK or someone like that. Someone who doesn't have a vested interest in this. Get someone who is completely independent. Marv style sisters. Oh, we've already talked about this. Yeah. Karma's a mother. We've talked about this already as well, so I'm not going to really talk about that. Minnesota's government authorities' full mobilization of state's National Guard says protesters no longer about the death of George Floyd, and I would probably agree with that, actually, to be honest. Governor Tim Walz announced Saturday that he has authorized full mobilization of the state's National Guard, something that has been done, never been done in the 146th history of the Minnesota's National Guard. Walz, who has been hammered by residents, critics, and the press for his response to the crisis in the state, pushed back on the idea that protesters, which have turned increasingly violent, now have anything to do with George Floyd, the unarmed black man in Minnesota that was killed by police. The tactics and approach that are being taken that have evolved and needed to evolve the same way with the sensitivity to the legitimate rage and anger that came after what the world witnessed with the murder of George Floyd, that was manifested in a very healthy gathering of community to memorize that Tuesday night, which was still present to a certain degree on Wednesday, he said, adding that by Thursday it nearly gone, and last night as a mockery of pretending that this is about George Floyd's death or inequities or historical traumas to our communities of color. During Saturday morning press conference, Walz also thanked the first responders who are out there protecting our cities, as they are taking incoming fire from improvised explosive devices and highly evolved and tightly controlled groups of folks bent on adapting their tactics to make it as difficult as possible to maintain that order, he said. Minnesota's Mayor Jacob Frey added that most of the violent protesters aren't residents of the city, but instead people taking advantage of the situation and hell-benting on fanning the flames of hate, to which I would agree with. This is no longer about protesting, Frey said. It's about violence, and we need to make sure that it has stopped. And I would agree with that. On the bright side, monkeys have escaped a lab with COVID-19 samples in animal... Alright, I'm going to probably do that. We'll put a pin on that one as well, because that's just really funny. Live updates. George Floyd protests continue. 3:15 a.m. LA. A guy in nice silver Audi is out of truck space. He may have to make another trip. What? Anyway, that's code for something. AP, map showing cities across the country where crowds are protesting police violence after the killing. They're not really protesting, they're rioting by this stage. Okay, let's call it for what it is. Local protesters, this is a peaceful protest. Antifa, get the F out. Oof. just left the White House protests, and let me explain one thing very clear. The protests early in the day were happily families wanting to seek change. The negative, more aggressive protest left and later came back when the sun went down. Bill Barr, violence appears planned by far-left groups using Antifa-like tactics. Can we call it for what it is, Bill Barr, please? It is Antifa. Attorney General William Barr said Saturday that violence in many places around the country appear to have been planned and carried out by far-left extremist groups using Antifa-like tactics in the wake of the riots over the death of George Floyd. Unfortunately, with the riots that is occurring in many of our cities across the country, the voice of peaceful protests are being hijacked by violent radical elements. The group of outside radical agitators are exploiting the situation to propose their own separate and violent agenda, Barr said in a press conference at the Department of Justice, and I would agree with him. They are. In many places, it appears that violence is planned, organised, and driven by anarchists and leftist extremist groups. Left-wing extremist groups like Antifa, like tactics, many of them travelled outside the state to promote violence. Barr's comments come shortly after President Trump fingered left groups such as Antifa for widespread rioting and looting. It's Antifa, the radical left, don't lay blame on others, President tweeted. These organisation groups have nothing to do with George Floyd. Sad, he wrote in a separate tweet. Now, we do actually have an update on this and some good news for people like me that have been pushing for Antifa to be listed as a terrorist group, because they have been now. So, let's talk about... So now we're getting into the real modern stuff, the real fresh stuff, guys. So, Donald Trump, the United States will designate Antifa as a terrorist organization. Hallelujah! Because the best part about this is that the rest of the world will follow. I really want to know what you guys think about this, actually. President Trump announced on Saturday plans to designate the violent leftist group Antifa as a terrorist organization. United States of America will be designating Antifa as a terrorist organization, Trump wrote on Twitter. The president commented after consecutive days of heightened rioting in several major cities after a black man, George Floyd, died after the officer knelt on his neck for several minutes while detaining him. Attorney General Barr will issue a statement after the president's declaration. The violence instigated and carried out by Antifa and other similar groups in connection with the rioting is domestic terrorism and will be treated accordingly, he wrote. Barr also said that 56 regional FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force will be used to identify criminal organizers and instigators fueling the violence. Trump blamed the violence on radical left anarchists, thanking the National Guard for helping quell the riots in Minneapolis. He urged other cities and other states to do the same. Thank God for that. We've had so many problems with Antifa at the moment that Trump listing them as a domestic terrorist organization will be nothing but good news. So I'm glad he's doing that, actually. Any other news? Yeah, this is the stuff that I'm talking about. Watch rioters. They're not rioters, okay? It's Antifa. She's literally getting up in the Antifa gear. This is Antifa. Let's call them for who it is. Rioters, Antifa, loots cheesecake from Cheesecake Factory in Seattle. Like, are you freaking serious? How is looting cheesecake from a cheesecake factory going to do anything about George Floyd? If they're going to sit there and claim that this is all about George Floyd, right? Okay, but what has that got to do with the Cheesecake Factory? During protests on Sunday over the death of George Floyd, at least one Seattle rioter, Antifa, raided a cheesecake factory and walked away with the whole cheesecake. Why? Because at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with George. What it is, it's a bunch of communists that seem to want this whole everybody gets everything. There's no private property or anything like that. This is literally something the universities has been drilling into people for years. We have had a huge problem with university teachers being members of this Antifa group or these far left-wing groups and brainwashing impressionable young people into believing this stuff. Someone that stands up and defends this. Someone please tell me how this is in the memory of George. Please tell me. Because you're literally part of a gang, right? And he spoke out against gangs. But never mind. Of course, a whole bunch of celebrities have gone through and started donating money to bail out protesters. You know, because we need them back on the streets. One of those people is Christy Tiggins, who donated $200,000 to bail out protesters. Now, there is an infographic going around showing out exactly who spent money bailing out protesters and stuff. But oh wow. Breaking exclusive, Minnesota's governor's daughter, Hope Waltz, was tweeting out intel to violent looters and rioters just like Ilmar's daughter. We knew from recent rallies and riots that it's highly likely the groups behind today's riots are democratic terrorists, revolutionary communists, US-based radical Islamist groups, others that are related to the Democratic Party. Today we have more proof of this. We reported a few days ago that Minnesota's Representative Ilmar's daughter tweeted out support for the protesters. Minnesota's Democratic Representative Ilmar's daughter, Isra Ras, retweeted a list of supplies for comrades. Comrades are communists, in case you don't know, who are rioting in Minneapolis. Oh, I don't know how to pronounce that, but anyway. Isra is the co-founder of the US Youth Climate Strike, and her Twitter bio says that she hates capitalism. Of course she does, because she's a commie. She's literally a communist. Isra Hauritz retweets a post from Twin Cities DSA, which is the Democratic Socialist of America. Want to help out your comrades protesting the 3rd Precinct at Lake Maha? Here's a good list of much needed supplies. Except for milk. Water is always better for eye washing than milk. Please don't bring milk. When the 17-year-old radical leftist got called out by reporter Andy No, she responded with a snarky comment. So Andy wrote, Ilmar's daughter retweeted a list of supplies needed for comrades who are rioting in Minneapolis. The twist is okay, yeah. She responds, oh my, laughing my ass off. The fact that me trying to help people is seen as bad. I don't even say I support the actions at the protests. I just care. By the way, CARE is also the Islamic group, by the way. So I think that has a double meaning there. The reason why she wrote CARE in capitals, it's the Center for Arab Relations or something extreme. It's something, yeah, that's something to do with Islam. But there's more to this story. Similar tweets supporting the rioters were being tweeted by Democrats Governor Tim Walz's daughter, Hope Waltz. She later deleted her account. But don't worry, because the internet remembers everything forever. So, it appears to be the Democrats and Islamists communicating instructions regarding the riots through their children. Can we zoom in on this? There we go. So she wrote, wants to hear about the Queens, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So she wrote this. She wrote, can someone who actually has followers relay to the masses that they've gotten National Guard trending, that the Guard will not be present tonight? Is she giving away, like, government secrets? There's a lot of misinformation and further spreading of fear and chaos at the scene at the protests. The Guard cannot be sent in within minutes. It takes time for them to deploy because they come from all over the state. To be clear, the National Guard will not be present tonight. Just because someone asked for something doesn't mean it's going to happen right away or even happen at all. I don't know about SWAT, but I do know that the Guard will not be present arresting people tonight. So, yeah, that's interesting. What else do we have? Oh, wow, this is something here. Minnesota's Attorney General, Keith Ellison, tweeted support for Antifa in 2018. Minnesota's Attorney General Keith Ellison once tweeted support for Antifa, so-called anti-fascist group that may have the blame for the ongoing riots in Minneapolis and elsewhere following the killing of George Floyd. The Anti-Fascist Handbook. At Moon Place Books, just found the book that strikes fear into the heart of the real Donald Trump. I remember him doing that, actually. Yeah, I do. How did that age for you, mate? Now, obviously, the Democrats are trying to spin it to be anti-Trump. They're claiming that white supremacists inciting race riots over black men's death. Really? But it's white supremacists, is it, that's doing it? Not the Antifa. By the way, yeah, we'll get to that in a sec, but anyway. Minnesota's Democrat Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan accused white supremacists on Sunday of instigating and participating in the widespread riots and looting in the state over the police killing of the state resident George Floyd. Which is funny, because it seems to be a whole bunch of Antifa people doing it. Don't know about you guys, but that's what it seems like to me. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Alright, what else have we got? We got this one. We've got probably about 3 more stories, guys, and we'll probably wrap it up. So, yeah. Last night we saw why Americans own 16 million AR-15s. It's a pretty good point. What do you guys reckon? Someone showed up with it and they looked down the barrel of that. How many do you reckon would turn around and walk away? As televisions and computers showed a fourth day of protesters turned rioters Saturday, looting and destroying property was repeatedly apparent why Americans own 16 million AR-15s. When Beto O'Rourke was still varying for the Democrat National and pledging to come away and take your AR-15s, Breitbart News spoke to the National Shooters Sports Foundation, or the NSSF, about why a Hakum task would be. After all, the AR-15 is the most popular platform in America. The NSSFA shared their calculations with Breitbart, showing the estimated 16 million privately owned AR-15s in the US. You cannot be blamed if you thought the number was closer to 250 or 300. Moreover, you cannot blame it if you thought the 300 AR-15 owners were toothless old white racists living in some isolated off-the-grid place, the property in deep heart of the South. But it turns out that AR-15s are owned by black people and white people, and all skin colors in between, and they are way more than a couple of hundred in circulation. On August 31st, 2018, Breitbart News reported more than 9 million AR-15s were manufactured for sale in the US under Barack Obama alone. So, yeah. CNN, Don Lemons calls out Hollywood leaders for sitting in your mansions and doing nothing amid protesters. Yeah, because the Hollywood owners or the Hollywood leaders don't want their houses smashed. So, they're keeping low. Sunday on CNN, anchor Don Lemon called out Hollywood actors and leaders who were afraid to hurt their brand by speaking up amid the nationwide protest after the death of George Floyd. Lyman said, but what we have a leadership in other places. What about Hollywood? Strangely quiet. I see them on Twitter. Oh, I'm loving what Don Lemon's doing. I'm loving what this person is doing. But they've gotten more than that, especially black celebrities and black leaders. While celebrities and rich Hollywood's rich folk are wealthy people, why are they not helping these young people? Why are they people out there standing on a platform on the edge of the abyss by themselves? Because at the end of the day, the people that are out standing on the abyss by themselves are communists who don't want people to have private property, and the rich mega people that live in, the rich people that live in Hollywood like their private property. Why are you not surprised by this? Oh, sorry, why are you surprised by this? Sorry, it's getting late. Why are you surprised by this? If I had a choice, if I was some millionaire, which, let's face it, most of them are, and I had some group that wanted to go through and burn down the whole society and leave me bankrupt and empty and with no money, do you think that would be in my best interests? No. So why do you think Hollywood is very, very quiet on it? But anyway. At least 13 Joe Biden staffers donate to group of supporting violence Minnesota's looters and rioters. So at least 13 Biden staff members made donations to radical leftist groups that raising money for the looters and rioters in Minnesota. The Minnesota Freedom Fund has raised $20 million in the past week by leftists to bail out violent Antifa and Black Lives Matter activists after they were caught looting and rioting. At least 13 members of Joe Biden's campaign and staff have made donations to the group that helps protesters get out of jail on bail, according to a report. The staffers posted on Twitter that they contributed money to a group called the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which opposed the practice of making people who are arrested pay money to avoid pre-trial imprisonment, Reuters responded. Biden himself opposed cash bails, comparing it to a modern-day debtor's prison. Campaign spokesman Andy Bates told Reuters. But the campaign would not comment on whether the staff donations were made in the coordination with the former vice president's campaign, he said. Following the death of George Floyd in Minnesota on Monday, the Minnesota's Freedom Fund raised about $20 million over the 4 days, Forbes reported. to me, this just seems like it's a cash fund for people to go through and get people out of bail, back on the streets, so they can go back to smashing things up. That's what it seems like to me. And guys, that's probably where we're going to leave it today, to be honest. We've been going for about an hour and a half. Almost 2 hours. Wow. Okay, so much for an hour-long show. But guys, yeah, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. If you're watching this later. For the people that have just jumped in, sorry, but we're wrapping up now. You'll have to watch it back on demand. It'll be back up there. But guys, yeah, obviously, look, at the end of the day, as for this rioting and everything that's going on, personally, I don't think this has to do with George Floyd anymore. This is all about, capitalists, communism, people that wanting to bring down the capitalist society. This is all about communist propaganda. And that's what it's been hijacked into. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on this video? What are your thoughts on what we've talked about here? Do you like these live shows? Maybe I could do it once a week, maybe? Let me know what your thoughts are in that comment section. If this video has been helpful, please smack that like button. If you're new to the channel, welcome and subscribe. I want to thank Jeff, Chris, Carl, and Discerning Light, who and also Squad, who are also here. There was about 7 or 8 people at different times, so thanks everybody who turned up. I know there was no real warning, but I might do these once a week around this time. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Apart from that, everybody who's turned up, thank you very much. Everybody who watched this at a later date, thank you. And guys, I will be back tomorrow night to make more videos. They'll be just pre-recorded ones, won't be a live show. But yeah, have a great night. Enjoy yourselves, guys. And we'll see you in the next demonetized video from YouTube. Have a great night and enjoy.